Hi there. Welcome to The Preventable, the podcast giving you a seat at the table with conversations about the intersection of alcohol, drugs, and mental health in everyday lives. Take a seat and join us.
Welcome to The Preventable. With me today are two guests that I just met, but I'm like, we have to start rolling because there's so much good stuff and I want to make sure that we get it recorded. So with me today are Brandon Anderson. He's the Vice President of Safety for Associated General Contractors. We'll talk more about what that means in a minute. And Bo Cooper. He's the Safety Director for Alberici Constructors. Welcome to The Preventable.
Good afternoon.
That was a mouthful. Y'all have some awesome titles. So first and foremost, let's start with Alberici because I feel like that might be a little simpler. What is Alberici for those people who are not familiar with the company?
We're a very large general contractor. We employ union tradespersons. We work a lot in infrastructure. So we're in locks and dams. We're in powerhouses. We're working with the military on military bases. We're building water treatment plants. We're building sewage treatment plants. We're doing a lot of heavy industry kind of behind the scenes things. You don't normally walk by and see an Alberici project from the sidewalk. There are a few of those, but we're heavily into infrastructure.
And are you just in Missouri or are you nationwide?
We work nationwide. Yeah, nationwide except for California right now.
Wow.
Nationwide.
And so if you are from this area, you would probably recognize your headquarters from the big, gigantic windmills.
Absolutely. Yeah, we established in 1917. So we're just over 100 years old. Right.
By the way, your campus is beautiful. I mean, you really make some investments in green, what's it even called?
Yeah, it's LEED certified as a platinum building. It's the first privately owned LEED platinum building for the GBCI.
Whoa. Okay, so more letters. So AGC, Brandon, for those people who are like, what the heck is that? What is it?
So we are a contractors association. So we have a number of different members from general contractors to specialty contractors, supplier services, industry partners for the construction industry that they, are part of our membership base, if you will, in our AGC Mo family. We provide all kinds of different services. I would say probably the biggest thing we hear is the networking aspect. It's a family in the construction industry, and it always helps to know who's who or who has what answer to what problem or challenge. Do companies like Alberici pay you all like dues or membership? Is that how that works? There is a membership fee structure. Mm-hmm. It's nominal compared to the services we provide, from lobbying to the safety services, like the safety division that I run. We have a labor management, labor negotiations division, so human resources.
So there's a lot of bang for your buck is what you're saying.
There is a lot of bang for the buck, no doubt.
So, all right, I mean, some people might be listening going, I'm confused. Why are we talking to two folks from the construction industry? My dad was a construction guy. He worked his way up from, I would say, just sort of laborer to superintendent on a job, and then actually was running a construction company for a while that kind of went bust in 2008. And his buddies were hanging out with some of his buddies were some of the best parts of my childhood. They would very frequently get off work, crack open a beer, sit around the job site, shoot the shit, pardon the French. And they'd work on Saturdays. It was hard work. If they weren't working at a job site on a Saturday, they usually be over at one of the other's house doing some home improvements. I'd imagine it's pretty tough work, physically, mentally. Would you all agree?
It's very hard work, and the people that are in the trades. I'm going to talk just kind of about the St. Louis area if I can right now.
Please.
Wonderful people, the best people. Without a doubt, the people you want behind you if you run off in the ditch during a snowstorm. They're the types of people to stop and help you out. They roll up their sleeves and they help you out. Just some of the most incredible characters, some entertaining. But just genuinely great people in the trades here in St. Louis. I can't say enough about them.
So it's grueling work mentally and physically. And I would imagine that you don't all normally talk about like your feelings very much. Or is that changing? Brandon, talk to me.
No, not a whole lot. It's interesting. I picked up on what you said about, your dad and friends of the family and the workforce of popping open a beer and shooting the breeze. And that's still pretty common today. The construction mentality. My father, construction worker, retired, family, uncles. I mean, a lot of them from that world, but they don't talk about their feelings, and it's this macho, this stoic, old school tough guy mentality of F your feelings is really what it comes down to,
right.
And get to work. It's pull your bootstraps up, suck it up, you'll be fine, and let's get the job done. And you bury that stuff, and it doesn't matter how tough you are, how macho, you may think you are. Right, or you may seem, to us, like looking at our dads, looking up to them. And there's some folks in the iron workers world and some of the other trades, they're fourth and fifth generation.
Wow.
Very proud.
Yep,
very proud families.
Yeah, I think I saw my dad cry once.
Yeah,
like for real. And I do feel like things are changing, and that is in large part to the work that y'all are doing, to the work that John Gall has done, Don Willie. John was on one of our first guests actually on the podcast, and he was talking a lot about opiates, and the link in the construction industry and what the construction industry was really doing to address that problem. And we touched on suicide prevention. And that's really why y'all are here, right? Because we're in the middle of September.
Yep.
It's 1 month of all of the other 11 months we should be paying attention to. But it's 1 month where we can really set aside some time and talk and think about suicide. How can we talk about its prevention? How can we talk about grief that might come from that? But really trying to get as upstream as possible to prevent this. So put some pieces together for me. Why do y'all care so much about this issue?
Well, I mean, it's worker physical health and it's worker mental health as well. We want people, in the safety world, you prevent people from injuries at work, and that's just what I do. But I'm also concerned about them after work, because if they're going home and they've got issues at home that are unresolved, they bring that back to work. They're a little distracted, and the last thing I want is for someone to bring their problems to work, not have anyone to talk to, no one to talk about. And they're sitting there doing dangerous, risky work in their heads in another place.
Right. Their heads in the clouds. They're not focusing. I mean, you take something as an example of, let's say that, you've had tragedy in your life, or let's say your teenager is struggling at home. I mean, that's enough to make you completely checked out, which then could put you at physical risk.
Exactly.
That could be even life-threatening, So this is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, nationally for society. What's interesting about it is the construction industry comes in pretty regularly on most studies as being the second highest suicide rate.
Can you say that again, just for those that weren't listening?
So the construction industry ranks second for their suicide rate. It's on average, depending on the data you look at, anywhere from 3 to 5 times higher than the national average, which is unfortunate. It's the number, if you were to take all other construction fatalities combined, so you think about like OSHA's fatal 4, right? If you add suicide to that, it's really fatal 5, and the suicide rate, those numbers are higher than all the other fatalities combined.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of the feeling, for lack of a better word, that you got to bottle up your stuff? Or do you think that the work is particularly conducive? I mean, I know that there's been a lot of studies on it, and something that I don't think most people realize is that St. Louis is really one of the leaders in this work, in studying the why, but in also thinking about how to mitigate. So first of all, let me ask the why. Do we know why?
We do. Yeah.
Okay, we do. All right. Lay it on me.
It's a complicated answer, but and there's a lot of moving
Aren't they
parts.
all, Bo?
They are.
Aren't they all?
It's grueling physical work. You're working in extreme weather conditions. A lot of our steadies work for us on the road. They travel with us. They're away from their families for 9 months out of the year. They've got things going at home that they're trying to manage. At the same time, work 10, 12 hours for us every single day, sometimes 6 and 7 days a week. So they don't really have time to process, if you will. And if they don't have an outlet or a healthy way to process, they internalize all of this.
Or decompress.
They bury it. Right.
Yeah.
And there's a few exceptions, but a lot of these folks are not going to the gym to work out after work. I mean,
they've done physically exhausting work all day. Who wants to go to the gym after that? Are you kidding me?
They go to the tavern or the bar.
Oh, there's some of us.
Oh, okay. Present company excluded, of course.
But both, he's absolutely right. You take into consideration the work environment, the deadlines, the safety, the very tight deadlines of you got to hurry up and get this done. And usually the first thing that goes out the window, sadly, is safety, or we're cutting corners. And that's stressful enough. But like he just said, everything that's going on outside of work is on somebody's mind. Maybe they just lost a loved one,
right.
or
going through a divorce.
Shoot, their dog getting ran over. Or they've got a family member that themselves is struggling with mental health and thoughts of suicide.
Taking care of their parents.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
It's another topic. Come back for that.
But it's true, and it's all we're human. We carry that, and you go back to what Bo said about the construction workers and the folks in the industry are some of the best people. They care, and they rally around, and they carry the weight of each other's problems, and even their family's problems, and then they come to work and they're expected to do a job in a short amount of time for long hours and all kinds of conditions, and then it's rinse and repeat. There's no real break, right?
And I told you no data points, that you didn't need that, so I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but are there patterns? For example, are there an increase in mental health challenges or suicides after, let's say, 2008 or during COVID or during recessions?
Yeah, no doubt. So I'll throw this out there. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? It was just a few months ago.
Right.
How long has it been Mental Health Awareness Month?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question.
It is a great question.
Yeah. Would you like to know?
Yes, I would.
73 years.
Wow.
73 years, May has been Mental Health Awareness Month. So if you backpedal and look at what was going on then, we're talking World War II, we're talking Korea, and then following that, Vietnam, as life went on, right, and we progressed to present day. Clearly, 73 years ago, those brave men and women, whether it was through coming out of the Great Depression and then going into the various world wars, at that time, there was people like us, like, hey, there's something going on here.
Right. Canaries in the coal mine, so to speak.
And we need this month to draw attention to it. But we're still, to a degree, we've made leaps and bounds progress, but we're still at this point of we're just talking about it, and getting past that stigma of I'm a tough guy, I don't need to call a doctor, I don't have to call an EAP or an MAP, I'll be fine. Or it's self-coping. And it's the wrong way. They reach for a beer, they reach for some sort of prescription drug that they may be misusing, or it's an illegal substance of some sort,
or it's gambling, or it's whatever. Right. So, all right, now that we're all thoroughly depressed, tell me what y'all are doing to address this, because this is where I think it's really exciting.
Well, since 2019, Washington University, some experts here, in St. Louis, John Gall, and then the AGC of Missouri, we got together and realized that if we get our forces together, we can come up with a pretty good suicide awareness and prevention campaign directed totally at construction workers, and that's exactly what we did.
Like by construction workers, for construction workers, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Exactly. And the taboo and the stigma is really where, personally, I think we need to continue to be attacking that. In 2018, I was in Chicago with a big kind of a industry group. The entire day, we met with Cal Bayer, and he talked about the problem of suicide in construction. I believed him. It was a full day about this topic. I didn't know what I could do at Alberici. I didn't know what I could do in St. Louis. And so I took all this information and put it on my desk and put it to the side. On March 28th, 2019, a kid named Dakota O'Sullivan jumped off the Lowe's Hotel, downtown Kansas City. At first, we thought he had fallen, so safety directors communicate with each other. It became readily apparent that he took his own life. And I looked at that pile of paper, and I got in Chicago, and I said, I got to do something about this. I wanted to give the suicide hotline number to people proactively.
Right.
You put a poster on the wall. That's passive. So we want to actively give them something. And I came up with this idea to put the number on a poker chip. And so I had marketing do it in Alberici with the Alberici logo, and was told, hey, get permission before you order these.
Right.
And I said, thank you for pumping the brakes. Yes. And so I went straight to the AGC of Missouri, and then we teamed up with WashU the very next week now. The 28th is when this event happened in March 2019. The very next week, April 1st, we met with WashU, AGC of Missouri, and the rest of it's,
kind of history.
Right, yeah.
That's another thing about folks in this industry. Y'all are determined.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to do something,
Yes,
you
we
do
can.
it.
Yeah. Laser focus.
Yeah, that's right. So that's where
Even
you
with
come.
everything we're carrying around,
I
right?
know,
Mentally,
right?
still can be laser focused.
So talk to me about these poker chips, because
Yeah.
I have one. I think they're awesome, but explain to me the rationale behind these.
So we try to avoid the term poker chip
okay, excuse
because of
me.
the gambling addiction
Right.
issues, right?
Well, to me, they
So-
sort of look like AA tokens,
Right.
Like a coin.
yeah, kind of like a challenge coin.
Exactly. Sure,
yeah, so-
sure. Or like Weight Watchers does those too, right?
I have no idea.
Neither do I. I have no idea.
So we've kind of rebranded them. They've evolved over time, and changed the design up a little bit and some of the phrases. But what the current evolution of them, what we have today is called a Hope coin. So Hope is an acronym we coined last year. Hold on, pain ends is what it stands for.
Hold on, pain ends.
Yeah,
Wow.
and the idea, the thought process behind that is, years ago, when a person was in crisis, an individual, it's about a 20-minute window from the time they make a decision and they follow through. That window has shortened to about 6 minutes today, on average, and it's just based on no real official studies and research, but just communicating and talking to those that have survived, in most cases, or didn't follow through. But
Wow.
the coin, it's got a comment on there that says you're not alone. It also has the 1-800 number, the text HOPE to 988, or even 741. With 988 just releasing, we've updated these. So, and it says your story isn't over. And the idea behind this is, again, keeping in mind that macho, tough guy mentality, I'm not going to talk about my feelings, right? Suck it up attitude. This is a way, it's very easy. You carry it in your pocket, lay it on a break room table, keep it in your cup holder in your truck or your car, whatever, your lunchbox. And if you notice somebody struggling or having a hard time, or they're making comments, you see these red flags, because we get to know each other better than our own families. In most cases, we're around each other. Those workers are around one another far more than they are their families. You can discreetly just slide this and pass this to somebody. And
Are you accompanying this with training? So, for example, like, how do folks, I'm not asking you to tell us, but like,
Yeah.
how do folks on the job site know how to recognize these red flags?
There's
or are
work to do there. There definitely
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Brandon's got some classes, and there are some terrific things John Gall's doing along those lines. And,
Okay.
It's critical to have that component.
is right now, do the coins primarily live with like I'll say superintendent, for lack of a better word, or are you giving them to sort of everyone to
Everybody.
pass? Everybody.
yeah, we've probably distributed, looking at the order forms and stuff, since these were created, 30,000 of them nationally, not just here locally. And they're going out to everyone and anyone. And I know folks not even in the construction industry that have given them to their kids, have ended up with them and taken them to high schools
Oh, wow.
and passed them out. And that's a whole nother story.
I leave them
Oh.
in seat back pockets
Yeah.
on airplanes. I travel
Right.
quite a bit. I'll just put them wherever.
Just lay
I
them
can.
around. And I go through TSA. I've been stopped and searched more often than I care to think about carrying these through TSA.
You're like, excuse me, what are all these?
Well, yeah, they come up, they're dense and they come up on the scan. So they're but I've passed them out to TSA agents.
Whoa.
Attaboy.
Because they're like, what? Like, oh, let me get some of those. So it's a discreet way. If you're not comfortable asking someone, hey, are you thinking about suicide?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not an easy question to ask.
It's not, and most people don't know that that's precisely the question you need to ask.
Correct.
Not hemming and hawing around it,
Yeah.
but like precisely coming out and asking the question: are you thinking of hurting yourself, or are you thinking of committing suicide?
Yeah.
I know it's completing suicide, but
Yeah.
I mean, most people don't know that just yet. So
Right. Yeah. There's the PC language, right? And there's this myth of, if I ask you,
right, that you're going to plant a seed.
yeah, and they're going to follow through, and it's been debunked. It's not true at all. And the whole commit suicide, nobody you die from suicide, right?
Right.
Nobody commits cancer.
Correct.
Nobody commits a heart attack. You die from it.
That's
and
right.
Suicide's no different.
Did you ever think that y'all would be talking about this?
Absolutely not.
No way.
Absolutely not.
I was going to say, I mean, I'm just imagining when you all entered into your jobs however many years ago. I cannot imagine that you would have thought that this is what you would spend a lot of your day doing.
I mean, I procrastinated after I got the information in Chicago. I procrastinated a full 5 months until the event in Kansas City.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still did not know what I was going to do. I never thought about it, but I'll tell you, this has been one of the most beneficial, rewarding things I've done in my career.
No
I've been
doubt.
at this for 22 years. It's terrific.
Yeah. I've been in the construction industry in one way, shape, or form, drawn a W-2 for 26 years now. I've dealt with mental health personally. This is all very personal to me. 5 years ago, if someone would have said, hey, you were going to be doing this, talking on a podcast or traveling nationally and speaking at conferences and keynoting and panels, I'd have laughed. Because at that time, I was in one of the darkest places of my life. I've watched friends just deteriorate from opioid misuse and then end up ODing. And then in some cases, some have chosen, and have made that decision, and they've purposely OD'd through, suicide.
There's
by
intentional
OD. Yeah.
overdoses and accidental overdoses,
Yep.
and those are all really linked with. We even teach a course through WashU about the intersection between suicide and substance use disorder because, many times the coroner has no idea what the motivation was.
And the data, because they don't, the coroner and the officers and the healthcare folks don't know how to classify. They don't understand some of that.
Right.
The data, the numbers are all skewed. I mean,
Right,
there's
exactly.
tons of information out there on opioids, or overdoses, but it's probably underreported, especially from the suicide aspect. But I've lost family and friends more than I care to even try to count. I know folks that are struggling right now. I myself went through as a survivor of having lost folks, but then also a survivor of attempt more than once. I never would have thought I'd been doing this. And a couple years ago when I came on board with AGC, right before the height of the pandemic, my predecessor, my boss at the time, was like, here, there's this program, take it, run with it. I got to worry about this issue.
Pandemic,
the
right.
pandemic. So he completely submersed himself into that, and I did the same on this side of it with our suicide mental health team, and here we are.
And we
it's,
are.
It's growing on
It's
a national
and it's
level.
a national model.
Yeah.
Brandon here has taken this nationwide. He's talked to OSHA in Washington, D.C. OSHA is getting behind it. OSHA admitted to Brandon, we have a problem within our organization, our government agency, and asked him questions about what they should do. So it's powerful. I mean, what we did in 2019 with Washington University, the AGC, and some experts here in town is far-reaching right now, and I never knew it would go that far.
I appreciate you sharing your story. I think that obviously probably lends some credibility to what you're trying to do, right? So people know that you empathize with them. And let's be real, we all have stuff, right?
Right.
It's just the extent to which we're comfortable talking about it. If people want to know more about how to get involved, meetings, if they want to, how do people find out more information?
Well, there's a ton of resources out there. A quick Google search is probably going to be overwhelming.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
In most cases. Yes. Talking to the construction world, go to your safety personnel or go to someone you trust. And if you're not even comfortable doing that, check out the documentation or your healthcare card, or if you're in the trades, your union member card. Typically on the back of those, there's an EAP or an MAP.
Which stands for?
So an EAP is a employee assistance program. MAP is member assistance program, which is geared towards the various crafts and trades out there in the unions.
Widely underused.
Totally.
Underused.
1,000%.
Probably one of the best resources available for those individuals that maybe they're not in crisis, but they're just kind of struggling and need some help. And it's not just mental health and suicide. Most of those programs provide services from, divorce or other financial planning.
Yep.
Tons of services associated with those. If somebody is in crisis, though, 988.
Yep.
You can call or text. There's still the 1-800 number. There's a lot of resources available to the folks that are in that position. And if that person, if you're witnessing someone in crisis and they're not in a position to call, you can call for them.
Correct.
Come alongside them and help them with that for sure.
Gentlemen, I've really appreciated our time. Thank you so much for coming on, for talking about a very challenging subject, but in a way that I think is very approachable and that is very hopeful. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much for being here. If you like this conversation and you want more, or you want to find more out about what's happening with the AGC and other construction companies around, please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing to The Preventable. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us at The Preventable, brought to you ad-free by Prevent Ed. Prevent Ed works to reduce or prevent the harms of alcohol and other drug use through education, intervention, and advocacy. Please visit their website at prevented.org. Like what you heard? Rate, review, and subscribe to stay up to date with what we are serving on The Preventable.